Israel's decision to reoccupy Gaza has sent shockwaves through the region. Is this the final blow to Hamas or a dangerous misstep? Tensions rise within Netanyahu's cabinet, and with hostages still in danger, the stakes couldn't be higher. The world is watching. Will Israel's bold move secure peace or fuel more conflict? Stay tuned. We're covering it all on today's episode of The Quad. And welcome back, everybody, to The Quad, the show that tells you what's actually going on in Israel and the Jewish world. And with me today, some very special co-hosts, the OG co-host of The Quad, Ashira Solomon, back from the United States. She is now the host of her own show called Black and Jewish. And Avi Mayer, our wonderful guest co-host who we can always count on for real analysis, and also the founder of his own journal, the Jerusalem Journal. And of course, my sister over here, Shoshana Keats Jaskoll, co-founder of Chochmat Nashim, elevating Orthodox women's voices. Guys, ladies, we're back. Another week of blood libels, another week of different news. The blood libel that we've all been dealing with over the last few weeks is, of course, the one of starvation. We never said that there wasn't food insecurity and perhaps problems with the new food distribution mechanism in Gaza, but the blood libels have been completely out of control, and we know that half of them have been lies. But then we have a new item of news to deal with, and that is the Prime Minister announcing that we're going back into Gaza. Let's be honest, we never left. Right. We're still there since after October 7th. So what does this mean? What does it mean we're going to be occupying Gaza, reoccupying Gaza? Is it really an occupation? Is it military control? Should we be doing it? Is it a way to finish with the terrorists once and for all, and perhaps allowing a new era of peace and prosperity for the Gaza Strip if we bring in regional partners? Well, thank God I've got some very intelligent people to break it down with me. Avi, you've written extensively. I think you are probably the voice at the moment in English saying, no, we shouldn't be doing this. Perhaps explain to us how you're feeling about this.
Look, one of the pieces I wrote about this, which was the one sort of arguing, this is, I think at this point a couple months ago, that the war needed to come to an end. I said, what we haven't accomplished in 20 months, we're not going to accomplish now. We've done about as much as we're going to do. And it's not just me saying this. The IDF is saying this. Months ago, the IDF said, we're done here. There's not much more we can do. There's not much more we can accomplish. And when you have the IDF saying that, when you have Israel's friends around the world, when you have Israelis themselves, somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 of Israelis saying, we're done with this war. It's time to reach an agreement and secure the hostages and bring them home and withdraw our forces. I don't understand what the rationale is at this point. And to be perfectly frank, I don't think that rationale has been made clear by any of our leaders, including the Prime Minister who had this press conference. I did not understand from him what the actual concrete goal is here that he's trying to accomplish.
Let me push back for a second, okay? Hamas walked away from the negotiations. Part of the reason why they walked away is because these European countries that don't understand anything about this region decided that they were going to declare Palestinian statehood in September, and it hardened Hamas's hand.
Plus all the aid that's been coming in.
Of course.
So what are they?
Plus all the aid. I'm pushing back and I'm saying,
right,
this could be a negotiation tactic. Or the point is, if the hostages are going to remain there and languish to death, is this not better than not doing anything? Because a deal is not in the offing right now. That's not what we've seen. So it could be a negotiation strategy, or it could be Netanyahu saying enough is enough. The war aims are destroying Hamas so that we can look forward to another era, a new era, maybe a regional arrangement. I feel that we're doing this because there are no options left.
So I'm not sure that's true. And I'll say three things. The first is regarding your last point. Very early on in the war, I sat down with a senior Israeli official, and I said to him, how do you destroy an ideology? Hamas is an ideology. It's not just an organization. He said, our goal isn't to destroy an ideology. We are there to destroy a fighting force. Mission accomplished. Hamas has been decimated. Right now, it's an insurgency. It is no longer the military force it was before October 7th. We have accomplished that goal. That's done. The second thing I'll say is, it's not 100% true that we have done everything that we could at this point to apply pressure on Hamas. There are many pressure leverages that have not yet been utilized, not least by pushing Qatar and Turkey to extradite leaders of Hamas so that they can stand trial in either the United States or Israel or wherever it may be. There are other ways that we can apply pressure on the organization and their leaders around the world who, of course, are swimming in billions of dollars and living in the lap of luxury. There are things that can be done that have not yet been done in order to apply that pressure. And the last thing is, again, it's a case of diminishing returns. What are the costs and what are the benefits of pursuing it at this point?
Yeah.
And I do not see what the benefits are that outweigh the tremendous costs of losing soldiers' lives on an almost daily basis, endangering the lives of the hostages, again, on an almost daily basis, further destroying our international image, which at the end of the day is in the worst state it's been since the state was established.
Yeah.
It's in tatters.
Yeah.
Now is the time to rebuild. And the only way we can do that is by ending this war on whatever terms we deem reasonable. And I think those can be accomplished. And I have to say, I just find myself at wit's end. I don't understand what's going on.
Shoshana, you agree with him?
I agree with Avi in the sense that we are suffering, our people are suffering, the reserves are suffering, our international whatever reputation is suffering. At the same time, I don't think there's a deal at the table. Like, I agree with what you're saying. Like, they're not coming to us and we're like, no. They're insisting on being militarized. They're insisting on still being in power. They're not saying, you take your hostages and we're out. They're not saying that. So is Israel going to say, okay, Hamas, you can stay in power after everything? Then people who have died in this conflict, people who have suffered in this conflict are going to say, what did I suffer for?
Yeah. Exactly.
What did I die for if Hamas is still in power 20 months later? I actually think, and I say this a lot, I think we need creative thought.
Yeah.
I think there's no creative thinking. There's very military, very male, very ego-driven, very, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know about Gaza City. I am not a military strategist. I'm not even a politician. But I'll tell you this. What hurts the most for the Palestinian cause is losing territory. So maybe, it's just an idea, thinking out of the box, maybe instead of conquering Gaza City, which is what they're talking about, by the way, not the whole strip, Gaza City.
Exactly.
Maybe we just start pushing in. Maybe we just start pushing in so that Gaza has less territory. The less territory you have, and we ain't going to give it back until you're out. Meaning until Hamas says I'm out, we keep taking their territory where we don't have to lose our soldiers, where we don't have to threaten the hostages, where it's like, listen, we're going to have Nitzanim A, B, C, and Z until you realize this is over. Now, again, no one's asking me to come into these cabinet meetings. I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just saying I think there is another way to think about this that no one's doing. And I agree with you, by the way, that no one's going after leadership in Qatar and no one's going after leadership in Turkey. And I think Israel, for whatever reason, is holding itself back. Maybe it's Trump, maybe it's Netanyahu, I don't know. But there are other things that we're not doing.
I think what you say makes sense. I got a call from Eric Weinstein, the scientist, a few weeks ago, and he said exactly this. The only thing they really care about is territory. Why don't Israel just take territory for every insurgency, for every peace? It is maybe creative thought. Maybe that's what's missing. Ashira, you've been dealing with, trying to explain what's going on for the last over a year in the United States.
Yeah.
How is this playing out? Or is the Trump era kind of, we're in a different place, and so we shouldn't feel so bad about the image in the United States?
In terms of the image, I don't think we should feel bad. It's pretty much destroyed. And as we've all talked about, our Hasbara situation is terrible. We don't have a spokesperson for Israel. And quite frankly, what I've been seeing online and how we are trying to combat what people are saying about us, whether it's that we're going to occupy and take over Gaza, and that this whole October 7th, us responding to being attacked was always about ethnic cleansing. All of these libels that have been shot at us, our response to them, we're not responding with more facts and more ideas in a creative way. But to go back to what you said about territory and pushing more territory, we heard Netanyahu for the first time talk about a day after plan with this civilian administration. And my question is, if we push out Hamas, what makes us think that a new civilian administration is now going to be loyal to a new player or to Israel?
Well,
their stance, jihadi stance, is that they prefer to have an honorable death than a compromised life. So I'm still not convinced that the people of Gaza, the majority of the people of Gaza, are, not jihadists.
Well, I think you're right about the fact that a lot of people have been radicalized. Their educational system for the entire strip has been, we hate Jews, we're going to kill them, we're going to kick them out. I think the idea was, and I think you're right, Avi, that there hasn't been and you also, Shoshana, a really clear day after plan, which has been part of the problem. And it's what my friends who are lobbyists tell me. The problem is if there isn't a day after plan, and maybe it's confidential, and maybe that's why, but it has never been expressed, and so people feel frustrated, and they don't know where this is going. But I think the idea of the day after, in my head, in the ideal situation, would be a regional civil administration involving Saudi Arabia, the UAE, countries that have a significant amount of funds, know how to build fast, and have de-radicalized themselves. So once another administration comes in, which is an Arab administration over the Palestinians, nobody's going to be looking. They only look when it's us. And we've said it very clearly, and this is why I think that perhaps the whole thing is hubris in order to strengthen our negotiation position.
Look, I would love for that to be the case. I really hope so.
Because it's not really a reoccupation of Gaza. When we went into the details, what did we learn yesterday? It's only Gaza City. We took it over last year, but we left Rafah, and then the Hamas came back.
Right.
So it's Gaza City. They want to encircle them, and they want to take the terrorists and trap them essentially, and move out the civilian population so we can keep fighting there. We did the same thing in Rafah. That's not the total takeover.
Right.
And the government is saying that's where the power is left.
It's also where the hostages are.
Yeah.
It's also where the hostages are, and that's the risky part.
Well, do we get the hostages from a deal, or do we have to go in and rescue them?
I don't think
We can't rescue.
we can't rescue
The
them.
IDF said we can't rescue all.
Because
We're very
if
clear about
we try, if we get there, they'll kill them. That's it.
Yeah, just like they do.
They just like they did with the 6 hostages that last summer, where Hirsch and Eden and all those wonderful kids were brutally murdered. But I have something else that I always say in the press. And I said, look, when you fight a war that you lose, imagine that somebody said to the Allies at the end of the Second World War, why don't you just let Hitler run a little German province in the middle of Germany? It would have been shocking to even consider that we could do that. How can we leave a seed of something which continues to be an existential threat? I don't know how we get rid of it,
Right.
but I don't know also how we leave it and think this is okay.
Look, at the end of World War II, the Nazi war machine had been decimated, similar to what Hamas has been at this point. And there was a deep process in Germany of denazification.
That's right.
Where no one who held positions in the Nazi administration could have any civil role in German society.
Well, they
We
were
didn't have the
also
same-
tried.
They were tried, of course, there were
Genocide.
trials, of course, there was a whole process. That is exactly what needs to happen in Gaza under whichever administration arises in place of Hamas. But I will say 2 other things about Israel's image challenges and so on and so forth. When you talk about how these calumnies, these blood libels have been spreading about Israel's desire to engage in ethnic cleansing and taking over Gaza and so on, that's not coming from nowhere. They're members of this government who say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are causing us unbelievable damage every single day.
Yeah.
My message to them is shut the hell up.
Shut up.
Shut the
Just
hell
shut up.
Every single time they open their mouth, they cause this country irreparable damage.
But the irony is, it's not government policy.
Yeah.
These are fringe.
But they're
Fringe
in the
ministers
government. Correct.
who are in the government. It's not government policy. They are very provincial people who don't even speak English.
Right.
So they don't know the damage it does. And the entire case in the ICJ against Israel
Is based on
the stupidities they've been saying.
But look,
And
at
we're
the end of the day-
literally doing the opposite of ethnic cleansing. We're saying we're going to move them out,
Yeah.
and they're allowed to come back, and we're moving them out for their
And
safety.
yet every single day, these same people are saying, no, we really want to push these people out of Gaza altogether. We want to take it over. We want to resettle the land. And that plays beautifully into the hands of Israel's enemies. And the last thing I'll say, and this is something that Bibi said in his press conference, he said the biggest challenge for our international image right now is that the war is ongoing. And he's right about that. You can only put so much lipstick on a pig. And at the moment, the pig is the war, and there's no way you can beautify it. War is awful. It looks awful. It is awful. It costs tremendously in terms of human life and the quality of life in Gaza, and of course in Israel as well. It needs to end, and we need to end it on our terms, and we need to end it now.
I'm just not sure what our terms are, and I'm not sure that we could end it on our terms at the moment, Shoshana.
We didn't talk about this because there's so much to talk about, but the aid that's pouring into Gaza right now. When I say pouring in, I mean it's coming in this way, it's coming in that way.
Flooding the strip.
Literally flooding the strip from various countries that are bringing in aid. And the images of people, running to get the crates, and it's horrific because nobody wants to see anybody hungry. And what's not out there is the fact that a lot of the people taking the aid are reselling it.
Yes.
They're getting it for free. They're selling sugar for 40 shekel a kilo, which is, I don't know what, $12, $13 a kilo. Wow. So it's like, this is free aid, but it's being stolen, and they're exploiting their own people, and nobody acknowledges
That's
this.
not
Nobody's
a story.
talking about it. It's like,
because the news is no longer news. It's the agenda. You take a boy with cerebral palsy, you say he's starving. It's an agenda. Then, when the truth comes out, you put a little apology in somewhere in the back pages, so the lie and the blood libel continues. There's curated pictures of kids, did you see this? Yeah. That was set up for the Time magazine cover. Look at these starving kids. Half of them are laughing. They've been trained. We're not saying there's no food insecurity, but the propaganda campaign is being bought lock, stock, and barrel by the mainstream media, who don't care if it's real or not, because they have an agenda and they play to that agenda. And that's the problem.
And for 20 months, they lied, right? There were lies after lies about, and this was within like a matter of weeks, Gaza is on the brink of starvation.
Oh,
this is in 2023, on the brink. It's on the brink.
We've always on the brink.
And so at some point,
and the parents are big and fat.
And you stop listening to Boy Crying Wolf. And then you get yourself into a situation like the one we're in now, where there is indeed food insecurity and there is a problem that needs to be addressed, which is why it's so wonderful that we finally started to flood Gaza with aid, as we should have done months ago. But the fact that they have been lying so consistently, by the way, when I say they, I don't mean not only the media, I mean the UN, I mean various humanitarian agencies that have been warning about an impending famine for such a long time. That was never true. It was never true. But now we got ourselves into a situation where, we are on the brink of something disastrous, which is why it's so good that we finally are doing what needs to be done and flooding territory with aid.
I mean, not to mention the fact that the UN, after denying it for months, is saying that 96% of the trucks are being intercepted by Hamas. I don't know how many TV interviews I've done when they're like, there's no evidence of Hamas stealing the aid. What about videos of terrorists with guns on trucks? That's not evidence?
And by the way, this isn't new. This has been going on for at least 15 years.
Of course.
15 years. I found evidence on the UN website of them declaring that they're suspending aid operations in Gaza because Hamas is seizing their aid. This was more than 15 years ago. It's not a new problem. And the fact that they deny it just makes them look preposterous. And it just undermines their credibility in the eyes of all Israelis.
Absolutely. And the reason why Israel tried to change the mechanism, because that is exactly the mechanism they use to stay in power, bribing people with food, recruiting child soldiers. They go to a 15-year-old, they give his mother some food that she doesn't have. And I thought the Prime Minister was very smart. He said, do you know how we know whether the aid has been stolen? It depends on the price of the food. If the price is very high, it's stolen, that they're trying to resell. The price is very low. It's because they don't need to be sold by Hamas. And the lies go on. And, and the other thing that really gets to me is that seemingly intelligent people, although I'm having doubts about everybody these days, don't seem to connect the blood libels that they help propagate with the problem of anti-Semitism. Yeah. It's like it's not connected. Oh, America's got 80, anti-Semitism has gone up by 600%. And at the same time, admonishing Israel, and they don't connect the dots.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't seem to understand. We're living in kind of an alternate universe.
I actually had a conversation with an Israeli, and we got into a really intense argument because he wanted to make the argument that, as I've been traveling, I noticed that people don't hate me because I'm Israeli or because I'm Jewish. They hate me because I'm Israeli because they hate the government. And I'm like, are you serious? Did you not just see the murders that happened in New York? Like, there is a connection between being Israeli and Jewish, and he's saying, no, I can travel as an Israeli, and until they know it's that I'm Israeli, it's the government that they hate, not because I'm Jewish.
The problem in Israel is that Israelis don't understand anti-Semitism
Yeah.
because they've always lived in a majority. And a lot of them are actually waking up. They didn't really get it. They didn't understand it. They're traveling around. They're being spat on.
Yeah.
And they never said even that they're Israeli, but for wearing a Magen David.
Until I see that a Jew who's in China, who has nothing to do with the state of Israel, can be attacked because he's a Jew in China and because of what the Israeli government is doing, you cannot tell me that they're not connected.
Well, it's just, again, I think it's the pronouncements of ignorant people who don't really understand what anti-Semitism is and how it works into all different types of causes in many different ways. But it's just, I feel that the press conference last night that Netanyahu did in one hand give me some hope that there was somebody in control, and on the other hand, a lot of frustration that we still don't see the end to this. And another 5 months, another 6 months, our soldiers are exhausted. They've been, 300, 400 days in Gaza without their families. And
it's more than that, though. It's really more than that. And if we're going to talk about like our soldiers, you have to talk about their families. You have to talk about the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, I am terrified that we are very close to October 6th again.
Yeah.
We are very close to October 6th again. And we'll talk about this more with my scumbag and hero, but we are back entrenched in our political lines and our tribes because this is now our new normal, right? We have normalized ourselves to this. And so we're kind of back. I know it may sound like opposite, but like we are now living a new normal. Our normal has of anxiety, of pain, of trauma is now just a higher level. And we're just going back to where we were instead of being able to learn from it. Like I try very hard in my house, in my life. If I make a mistake, if my kids make a mistake, something breaks, I hurt somebody's feelings, I do 2 appointments at the same time and I ruin something. How do we learn from this? Like, how do we learn from this so that next time, because then it's a lesson. Then it's not a regret, it's a lesson. We suck at this in this country. We don't learn lessons. And if you look at the news outside of Gaza, if you look at Israeli news, politics, and what's going on in the Knesset and the streets, we are so close to October 6th again. And that is the tragedy of October 7th is not only the tragedy of October 7th. It's that we were supposed to learn from it.
Yeah.
And my deep fear is that the longer this war goes on, and it's our new normal, and we adjust ourselves as Israelis to it, we are not learning from it. And that, for me, is the largest problem.
I agree. Along with that there's no real women in the security cabinet. That's a big problem too.
A massive problem.
And maybe I just always feel that if there was a woman in the room, I'm not saying that the policy would be so much different, but there would be a diversity of thought about how to do
not one woman.
things,
You have to have
how to
multiple women.
communicate things. I agree. How to do things, to communicate things in a different perspective. And I think the biggest tragedy to me is that the government doesn't really see the value of a woman's opinion, a mother's opinion in this
That's another
story.
lesson from October 7th that we're not internalizing. The Tatzpitaniyot, the people who warned about it were women. The people who, not all women, but many women who warned about it, who were saying, let's do this differently. Rachel, who charmed her terrorists with cookies as opposed to fighting them. Like, it's not that men are bad. It's that you cannot have one perspective around the table. You will never see from other sides. And we're not looking from other sides. We're not looking at the situation creatively and understandably. And again, we're drawing our lines. I don't want to make it a gender thing. I want to make it the more people around the table that think differently, that are from a different perspective and a different background, then you will get better solutions. And we have not learned that lesson either.
Yeah, I also think it'll help with the image problem.
Of course it would.
Think about
For
it
sure.
when they're talking about Gazan children and you have a woman there who's also a mother. She can relate to how a mother in Gaza would feel. It would soften the image to the international.
Absolutely. They're saying that we're brutal occupiers and you put a man in uniform in front of the TV cameras. What do you want?
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of lessons to learn, but we're going to go back into our default therapy. Scumbag of the week. And now, our Scumbag of the Week segment. Shoshana, who's your scumbag this week?
My scumbag is a broad brush, guys. It's a broad brush of scumbags. It's anyone, whatever your political spectrum or agenda is, who can't see the other person. Because if you are not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And anyone who says, I'm right, or it has to be this way, or it can't be that way, or you're wrong, without listening, without at least accepting that someone else has different fears, different perspective, different understanding, different background, different experience, you are part of the problem that makes us stay where we are or regress instead of go forward. I see this in religion. I see this in politics. I see it in families, people who simply can't respect and relate to the fact that there is someone else. And for me right now as an Israeli, I am watching what's happening in the government and I am devastated. I'm devastated whether it's about the draft or if it's about the war. We are not enemies. If we treat each other as enemies, we will fall to our real enemies. Literally just had Tisha B'Av. Literally just had Tisha B'Av, where we read about our destruction and our dispersion because of our inability to see the other person and the inability to respect someone else's perspective. And I am begging each and every one of you out there, whoever you are and wherever you are, see the other person. You don't have to agree. You don't have to think they're right, but you gotta respect them and understand you're in the same damn boat. And if you two don't start talking and figuring out a way out, you're gonna drown together.
Wow.
That's how I feel.
Strong words. No, but I think you're right. And I think the problem with the world today is that when I was in college, for example, we used to have debates all the time. Israel and the Palestinians, and we would have a healthy debate. We wouldn't agree. And sometimes the debate got, quite heated, but we could talk to each other. Today, that doesn't exist anymore.
No.
People who don't agree don't talk.
Yeah.
They cancel one another.
They cancel one another. I think Israel's probably the last place, honestly, that still has that type of critical thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I argue with my friends all the time here.
Sure.
And it's okay, and we still remain friends. I'm not saying everybody can do that, because there's also extremes in Israel who don't want to hear the other side. But I think for the most part, we still are a healthy society in that we do.
The society, but our government doesn't.
I'm not sure about that.
That's what, look what's happening.
Right. You mean that if you have a different, they just kind of cancel you or say that you're a traitor or not,
You're an enemy.
Yeah, I agree.
It is awful. It is awful. And I think it's tragic for our society.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, you talked about having other perspectives around the table. Look, a prime minister is allowed to build a coalition as befits his or her agenda and ability to govern and so on and so forth. But the fact that there is this wall that they put up, that they will not hear the other side, that they have hardened their hearts almost to hearing the plight of the families, the reservists, those who have been so directly affected by this war. It's really painful to see that these are the people who are making the decisions seemingly without taking these needs into account.
Yes, having said that, I would say that it also happens on the other side.
100%.
Whatever Bibi says,
Sure.
everybody's allergic.
Yeah.
He says partial agreement, they say no. Full agreement. He says full agreement, they say no. What about the partial agreement? Come on. It happens on every
I agree.
side, and it's actually, you switch on one TV channel, you see only one perspective. You switch on another TV channel, it's a whole other perspective. What happened to the news? What happened to just reporting what's happening?
100%.
And that's something that is being lost. And I still believe that there is enough critical thinking in this country for us to be able to pull it back.
And Fleur, I agree with you, because coming from the US and seeing after the Obama era into the Trump era, we have actual cancel culture in the United States.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't think Israel has.
No, I agree.
Not to the same extent.
They don't have cancel culture yet. They're not there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, God knows the stuff you get online
Yeah.
for being a conservative Black Jewish woman.
Yeah.
Ashira didn't have enough minorities. She just kept adding some on.
Going down a checklist, right?
I like to take the hard path.
Yes, very good, Ashira. That's why you're resilient. Well, that's, I think, a very worthy commentary on unfortunately, scumbags who won't listen to the other side. Avi, who's your scumbag this week?
So there has developed a cottage industry over the past few weeks and months of folks who have discovered their hatred for Israel and hatred for Jews. And one of the most notable voices in this has been this woman named Anna Kasparian. Anna Kasparian is, I think, that is the right response.
Emily Schrader debated her on
Correct.
Piers and
So she's
did a great job.
a fixture on Piers Morgan's show, a place, by the way, that I refuse to go. And she is very telegenic, she's very well-spoken, and she is vicious. And she, just the other day, put up this tweet in which he said that the United States is occupied by Israel.
Yeah.
And this is not only an echo, it is a regurgitation of the worst anti-Semitic tropes from throughout history. That the Jews control the globe, that the Jews control governments and banking systems and so on and so forth. She's saying it openly. And I saw someone say, I don't think it was in reference, or it might have been, if you say something about Zionists and Israel, and if you replace it with Jews, it sounds like something taken out of the protocols of the elders of Zion, you're doing something wrong. She is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this woman is a failed journalist. She didn't make it in mainstream media. She joined something called the Young Turks some years ago. She's now, I think, their executive producer or something senior over there. She is of Armenian descent. And the Young Turks were the organization that carried out the Armenian genocide.
Yep.
She is a grifter. She's not only a grifter when it comes to Jews, she's a grifter when it comes to her own people.
Yeah.
And she is absolutely worthy of the title of Scumbag of the Week.
Wow.
Absolutely. I think Emily, who's not with us today because she's not feeling so good, would agree with you. She also gets super hysterical on peers, like,
Right.
like she goes nuts.
Yeah.
She really believes in cancel culture because she doesn't even want to hear the other
Of
side.
course not. She drowns them out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm hoping one of these people will just like combust one day. So, like self-combust from their own,
Like, literally explode.
literally explode from their own hatred. Ashira, who's your scumbag this week?
My scumbag of the week is a man named Chris Smalls. He is the Amazon labor union activist.
Okay.
He came over on one of these Stop the Genocide ships to bring aid to Gaza.
Yeah.
Got stopped by the IDF. He's a black man, and I have to say that because it's important to the story. He was the only black man on this ship, and he said that the IDF singled him out because he was black. He also stated that he resisted arrest, okay? That he did not consent to arrest, so they pinned him
Don't
down.
make the consent to arrest these
You have to
days.
consent
You have
to
to
arrest.
send an invitation to be arrested.
We request the pleasure of your company in custody.
He said they pinned him down, they choked him by his chains, pulled his hair, and called him racial slurs. I'm like, first of all, you don't even know Hebrew, so if they did call you racial slurs, you wouldn't know.
True.
Secondly, how do you know they did you ask them? Did they single you out because you're black? So as the host of the Black and Jewish podcast, this irritates me so much to my core because I work really hard to build bridges between the Black and the Jewish community. And this narrative that Israel, the IDF, is racist, that this war is about race, it's so ignorant. The Israeli-Palestinian, the Israeli-Arab war has never been about race. It's never been about race. He said that black people and brown people are not safe under the Israeli government. And that's just simply not true as a black Jewish person who lives in Israel.
Has he seen our Ethiopian soldiers, perhaps?
I think probably there could have been a black soldier that arrested him. And so I call BS on his story, and I just hate the hypocrisy. I hate that he's so disingenuous. I hate that all of black media picked this up and ran the story and said, see, Israel is so racist. And even like going back to even a historical context, the conflict here has never been about black and brown people. And Yasser Arafat did such a great job with the Black Panthers and the Black Panther movement to really sell this idea to black Americans. And I just want to say over and over and over again, what's happening in the Middle East has nothing to do with the color of their skin.
Well said. And again, if anybody actually looked at the Israeli population and saw all the shades of the rainbow, they'd understand that you can have multiple races and still be Jewish.
Right.
And that we have 20% of the country is Arab, full citizens living in peace here. And that many of them are actually in the army as well. The army is an Israeli army. Thank you, Ashira. Okay, my scumbag, her name is Iman Abdul, and she was supposedly, although now it's been denied, a staffer for AOC. Of course, the team at AOC are saying, no, she never worked with us. I still don't quite believe it. And she decided that it was a great idea to write an Instagram post encouraging people who want to punish Jews or be anti-Semitic to go to a particular school. She puts a map on her account that has 25,000 followers. She puts a map and says, if anyone needs a public school in New York City to attack, for whatever reason,
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Lexus driving, Israel loving Zionists all attend here. They've all gone on birthright.
Wow.
Okay? So this woman obviously didn't realize, or maybe because it's been normalized
Right.
by all of her friends and by alleged boss AOC, it's been normalized to hate Jews, to, exclude Jews from different public spaces and universities, attacking people who look visibly Jewish, because that's now become part and parcel of life in certain neighborhoods in New York. Maybe she didn't think it was so bad because everybody's going along with it.
It's like a Hitler Youth camp count.
Exactly. So what's happened, and I always like a scumbag with a happy ending, she's been arrested. Because yes, little angry girl, this is incitement of racial hatred. And guess what? There are laws against that, even though you may have missed that memo. And even though the behavior of people around you by letting that other scumbag, Mahmoud Khalil, walk around and spout his hatred, maybe you didn't get the memo that maybe you went a step too far. Because you put a map, you put an address, and you basically said, go
get
get
'em.
Jewish children.
Yep.
And so I hope you never see the light of day, and I hope you're joined very, very soon by some other scumbags in the neighborhood. Mahmoud Khalil being another one of them. He's a repeated scumbag, so I'm not going to give him more oxygen. But yes, Imam Abdul, you are the scumbag, but you're a scumbag behind bars right now, so thank God. All right, yes. And now we always end our show with positive vibes. And there are many heroes. Heroes of the week. Avi, let's start with you.
Well, Fleur, you just talked about the importance of happy endings.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a happier ending to the ordeal that Keith and Aviva Siegel went through in captivity as hostages after October 7th and the marriage of their daughter just the other day, Shir. It was a mazel tov, absolutely a mazel tov moment. It was a beautiful, beautiful wedding. There's a lot of footage and videos going around. And just seeing Keith and Aviva walking her down the aisle was just such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
It really brought tears to my eyes. I have to say, walking over here earlier today, I saw one of those hostage posters with all the faces of the hostages, and immediately I saw Keith's face staring back at me.
Yeah.
I said, wow, he went from being on a poster to walking his daughter down the aisle.
Yes.
And is there anything more beautiful, and is there any ending happier than that? So they're absolutely my heroes of the week.
They're heroes, and they were both hostages.
Yeah.
Aviva was let out in the first year,
right.
a month and a half after. And Keith stayed there at his age.
Till January, yeah.
Till January, when he came back, of course, skeletal, as we saw all the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
hostages come back. And yeah, but I think that's always the juxtaposition of Jewish life.
Absolutely.
And kind of the story of our people. It's like tragedy and celebration and joy, like just living side by side.
And it's notable that all three of them, as they walked down the aisle, wore the yellow pins.
Yeah.
Because of course we still have 50 hostages who are still in Gaza. They cannot be forgotten.
Yeah, absolutely.
And joining them at the wedding were other released hostages who were there celebrating and dancing with them. It was so beautiful, so heartbreaking. We need to do whatever we can to bring all the hostages home and ensure they all have that happy ending.
Amen, Avi. Beautiful, beautiful. Shoshana, dear, who are your heroes this week?
My hero, people may argue with me about, but it's really connected to what I was saying before and my scumbag, and that is U2. U2 just put out a statement, a 10-slide statement, at least on Instagram. That's where I saw it. And slide number 4, I believe, I'm just going to read a little bit. It says, the rape, murder, and abduction of Israelis at the Nova Music Festival was evil. On that awful Saturday night, Sunday morning of October 7th, 8th, 2023, I wasn't thinking about politics. I assume it's Bono writing this. On stage in the Nevada desert, I just could not help but express the pain everyone in the room was feeling and is still feeling for other music lovers and fans like us. Hiding under a stage in Kibbutz Re'im, then butchered to set a diabolical trap for Israel, to get a war going that might just redraw the map from the river to the sea. A gamble Hamas's leadership was willing to play with the lives of 2 million Palestinians, to sow the seeds for a global intifada that U2 had glimpsed at work in Paris during the Bataclan attack in 2015. But only if Israel's leaders fell for this trap that Hamas set for them. Now, He goes on to talk about Palestinians and occupation, and he talks about his work in other countries where seeing starving children made him think of those starving children. But here is a person who is speaking from experience, from a learned experience, from firsthand knowledge of other conflicts, and humanizing but contextualizing this. And yes, he calls out Israel. And yes, there are things I don't agree with him about in these 10 slides. But the fact that he's taking 10 slides and not a slogan, and not a chant, and not just a watermelon to express himself means that this is a person I can sit at the table with. This is a person we can talk to. This is a person who sees us as people. And that, to me, is being a hero nowadays. So thank you, Bono. Thank you, you two, for seeing us as people and for giving us a place to start talking.
It's beautiful.
Wow, Shoshana, really, you're on a hunt. You're on a theme this week for understanding and listening. No, I agree with you. I think that he does have a nuanced opinion, and yes, this is somebody you can talk to even if you didn't agree with.
Shoshana, I have to agree with everything you said, and I think that he did something that is so critical and that we constantly insist that people do, which is draw a distinction between the Israeli government and its policies and the basic right of Israel to exist and the right of Israelis to live at peace and security. He did that beautifully. We need that nuance in this conversation because it's so often lost. We see people painting Israel and Israelis with this broad brush that anything Israeli governments do renders Israel's right to exist moot, as though we don't have a right to be here because someone may or may not agree with what our government is doing. He drew that distinction, which is so beautiful and so critical. If only we had more people doing exactly that.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
and just giving Israel the benefit of the doubt. This is what I always say to people. I say to our own young people at university, don't just believe everything you see, and just give the benefit of the doubt to a democracy as opposed to a terrorist group.
Right.
If you could only do that, we're not perfect. We never say we are, but if you could only give the benefit of the doubt and find out what's actually going on, that would be a great start.
Yeah.
Ashira, who's your hero this week?
My hero this week is a Instagram account / clothing brand. It's called Praise Studios. It's ran by a young man named Gabe, and I met him last week, and he encourages people to wear their faith on their clothes. So he has a clothing brand with different psalms and proverbs on it, and then he goes around asking celebrities, politicians, activists, people on the street, like, did you pray today? And he started this after October 7th because he wanted to figure out a way, like, how could he be a part of, helping his people and the Jewish people and non-Jews as well. The reason why I'm so impressed by this young man and what they're doing is because what we're all going through is very, very tough. It's very, very hard. I've been outside of Israel for a year. For about 6 months of that time, I went home to California to really restore my soul because it's hard, it's heavy. We always brag about how resilient we are, but what makes us resilient, part of it is having God. And I can't imagine people who don't have God, that don't have faith, how they're getting through it. And so him going around encouraging people to pray, encouraging people to lean on scripture in such a hard time is so inspiring. And I think that, people like him are fighting the spiritual warfare, the spiritual battle that we're having, as our soldiers are fighting the physical warfare. But I really like that he's focusing on that, and I hope that it's helping people's mental health. I hope that it's helping people's soul.
Well, I think that people who have faith definitely have an easier time with these types of trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. That's great. You always bring these kind of startups and you always bring these, Ashira always brings these social businesses or social startups, somebody trying to heal is a theme by you.
So I'm like, can we all heal?
Like our friends from Planet Therapy. Yeah, it's always you, Ashira, that brings these people. So my hero this week, and he has been a hero before, but he keeps constantly impressing me, is Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, because I've been saying something that I truly believe for the last 2 weeks in the media, but he says it, and he's the Secretary of State of the United States, so he's much more credible than me acting as a spokesperson for the Israeli government when he says that Hamas were at the table until France, the UK, and Canada said that they were going to recognize a Palestinian state.
Well, if you notice that the talks with Hamas fell apart on the day Macron made the unilateral decision that he's going to recognize a Palestinian state. And then you have other people come forward, other countries say, well, if there's not a ceasefire by September, we're going to recognize a Palestinian state. Well, if I'm Hamas, I basically conclude, let's not do a ceasefire.
Right.
Because we can be rewarded and we can claim it as a victory. So those messages, while largely symbolic in their minds, actually have made it harder to get peace and harder to achieve a deal with Hamas. They feel emboldened.
They hardened the hand. They put our negotiating position to get out our living hostages in peril. And one of the reasons that we're having to do this new Gaza offense is because they walked from the table. Because Steve Witkoff put a lot of his political capital, and Trump put a lot of his political capital pressurizing Qatar, getting to Doha, the teams were sent. When did Hamas walk away? When the Europeans gave them a gift. And they said, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is wait till September.
Yeah.
And now today we hear that Australia are equal morons in Hamas's ploy. And so Rubio has called it out as it is. He's been consistently morally clear. He's been consistently eloquent about Israel's issues and challenges against a jihadi terrorist Muslim Brotherhood group that threatens the entire world. And yesterday, day before, he said it very clearly. The minute that France announced, that's when Hamas walked away. And so I want to continue encouraging Marco Rubio to keep speaking the truth against a lot of opposition, but he's so clear, and he is definitely my hero yet again, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State.
You know, it's really quite striking. Like, these are folks who are not diplomatic novices, right? These are countries with proud diplomatic histories. The United Kingdom has had a tremendous diplomatic role to play around the world, France as well. How they could be so short-sighted and stupid in making these declarations about, recognizing Palestinian statehood, which, by the way, does not exist and will not exist until it is in agreement with Israel and is part of an actual two-state solution. It really boggles the mind.
Well, it boggles the mind if you don't understand that they've got their own internal audiences
for sure.
that they're trying to pacify, which to me is even worse.
Right.
Because all these countries have a huge jihadi problem in their countries. When it comes to the UK, there's a scandal that the government doesn't want to face, which is the grooming, rape gangs grooming of Pakistani men, grooming young English girls and raping them. And not only does the government not want to open a national inquiry on this, they keep brushing it under the carpet, and the British people are flabbergasted. And so what do? They keep appeasing. The opposite of what Winston Churchill stood for when he was the only one, and when they called him a warmonger in the 30s, and they said, we have to deal with Hitler. And now the British are repeating the mistakes of Chamberlain. And so here we have it again, but Marco Rubio is still, he sees it, he's speaking the truth, and that's why he was my hero. So it's really wonderful to be with all of you, and we pray every week that our hostages come home, all of them, the 20 that are living and the 30 that have already not with us, that were brutally murdered, and we pray that they come home in whatever way possible, that we get them home. Thank you for watching.